The issue that we have before us are the conflicting narratives. My understanding of what the minority is saying is that the whole operation was illegal, if indeed it was not based on an order from a court, i.e. a warrant. And the description of the operation or the action in the media as a raid itself connotes, a certain degree of use of force and so on and so forth. But I have just heard you read the statement from, let's say, the government, the authority. And it will suggest that everything was normal. So if the team that went to the former governor's house presented a piece of paper purported to be a court warrant or whatever form of warrant to the wife and the security, and on that piece of paper, the authorization was stated, the objective was stated, the objects of the search were also stated, and they went room to room, wherever they wanted to go, looking for a vote. I don't see anything wrong. But if it so happens that indeed this thing was not backed, this action was not backed by a legal documentation, then we have a case to say that it doesn't augur well for our democracy if whoever is in authority, uses unlawful, illegal ways to, undertake some of these operations.
Indeed, we've had not just the national security sources confirming that to us. The Office of the Attorney General has also said that indeed this was done through a court order.
Yes, indeed. So until there's a contrary evidence that there was no court order, then I think the minority leader is right in making those kinds of arguments. But if it so happens that the minority leader has deliberately ignored the element of the legality, the legal basis for the search, then I think he is creating more harm than otherwise. But we need to accept that it is normal practice in all jurisdictions, democratic, non-democratic, for the state from time to time to determine that in the interest of national security, very broadly explained, the state individual rights and freedoms, they must go to the court, justify why they want to undertake those kinds of actions that violate our privacy in order to enter our premises. It happens everywhere. And it's not the first time, it is happening in recent years. Let's go to Ayawazu West Ogun 2019. The state said that it had intelligence that arms and ammunition were being stockpiled in the gentleman called Abrimpon's house. Till today, we have asked the state, the mandate of the state, to present the evidence. And we know that they didn't even enter the premise, let alone to go and undertake any search. So you begin to wonder why the state sometimes does these things. I'm not trying to do equalization. My main argument is that if there was a bench warrant or court warrant, then the minority leader should not be presenting the evidence the way that he's presented it. Yes. And the media should not be using words that connote certain meanings like raiding somebody's house. It wasn't a raid. It should be seen as a normal permission legally to enter a premise and to look for evidence, whatever they were looking for, stated on the court warrant. We haven't seen the court warrant, so we are not in a position to know whether indeed the court ordered that they could go and look for a vote.
So if I hear you correctly, if what we're hearing from the national security sources and the AG's office is anything to go by, then the minority is just playing politics with what has happened.
So, that's what I think.
I want you to hold on.
The two narratives are completely at odds.
I want you to hold on. We have the deputy. I want you to hold on. We have the deputy attorney general, Sremsai. Okay, please go ahead and land with your voice, and then we'll hear from the deputy attorney general.
No, we can hear him.
Okay, so I'm told already yet. So please just go ahead and land, and then we'll play that for you to hear.
Yeah, so that's my main contention. That we need now, or the media should help us verify which narrative is the correct narrative.
So hold on. Let's now hear the deputy AG. I'm sorry.
Okay, right.
Concerns are on two sides. There are a group of people who believe that the AG is actually being slow, and there's another group of people who are of the view that the AG is being aggressive. Last night there were some searches conducted in some homes, and the views are divided. But I would like to assure the public that we are, as much as we can, pursuing persons who are believed or are suspected to have looted, state assets, being money or other properties. We are committed, and work is going on day and night for that to be done. Most importantly, we are also doing so within the framework of rule of law, because as you may know, there have been instances in the past where persons who are suspected have been treated, have been arrested in manners that don't comply with the rule of law, where violation of human rights and other laws have been broken just because people are suspected. We've also witnessed instances where people have been put on trial for years without any evidence and without any conviction, without any trial, and they wake up, go to court, and they are just spending money on lawyers. We are determined, and when I say we, I mean my boss, the Attorney General. He is of the view, his policy is that he will not put anyone before any court without having sufficient evidence to prosecute the person. So the reason for the delay we are seeing, or what most of the public are seeing as delay, is that we are making sure that we get it right, we get the evidence before we put someone in court. We are not in the business, or we will not be in the business of putting people before the court and now seeking permission to go and now look for the evidence. At least we must have what we call sufficient evidence to be able to put people before criminal courts.
Council, so you're saying the searches, including the former BOG governor, was sanctioned by your office?
So the offices, there are so many. So if you look at how government works, we work with other institutions, and people submit complaints. So, but every search that you see, is part of the government framework to fight the corruption, and we'll take responsibility for the search that are happening. And we want to make it clear that those searches and the mode in which they were done in accordance with law. Warrants were procured, and warrants were used to conduct those searches.
Thank you.
And you had the Deputy Attorney General Sremsai. We still do have on the line with us a security analyst, Colonel Festus Aboagye. What do you say to what the Deputy AG just told us?
Well, I think he's added a bit more clarity to the argument of whether the action was legal or illegal. Now, the legality is one dimension of the argument. The mode in which it was conducted, and I think that is also the reason why some Ghanaians, including the minority leader, are inclined to say Rambo style. Because sometimes these teams come with well-armed personnel. And one would expect or could expect that maybe they should have conduct such.
We'll have to end it.
Unless, of course, there's some prior intelligence that they could meet with some resistance, including armed resistance. So carrying arms and ammunition into anybody's home creates a bit of fear. So that's the only argument I could make, that we should reduce the level at which we use force in order to conduct some of these activities. As we see, let's say, in the U.S., where FBI goes into homes.
Forgive me, sir, if you are able to
jacket,
forgive me.
FBI.
Forgive me.
We don't see arms. But invariably, they are carrying arms, but not assault rifles. But sometimes, at the same time, we see that violence occurs and people are shot.
We'll have to end it here, unfortunately. Thank you so much, Colonel Festus Abuaje, for giving us your thoughts and perspectives on this. Now, calls are intensifying for the government to commission an audit into the school feeding program after allegations of massive corruption there. A former Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection and former Member of Parliament for Dom Kwabenya, Sarah Adwoa Safo, in a recent interview, alleged that the school feeding program, a policy initiative that provides a daily meal to pupils, in public schools, is riddled with corruption. Now, she said that her attempts to get to the bottom of the matter was met with resistance. Listen to exactly what she said.
School feeding now, school feeding any ministry, and we're in parliament.
Okay.
But no so frame meeting crowd woman. Man frame meeting am one mother. Or say or what empenyufo ekunya efficacy anymore. Or no reported to into reported to me. And the rot and the corruption koso wo no. Abanya bay me say omomo mani nko ho. School feeding ho. Man panyi kufo de adwenpa and the school feeding buy. Now the way I turning no me start say ye gender mami. Me who beba time nyina. President Akufo Adu ka tell me say menye audit of school feeding and sani ya mama sika po de aye adwuma say den na sika bebre na ye de kɔ hɔ no ne ye de ye ene me ka ne ye wo mu me kɔ me frɛ mami ba ko won ma mienu won ma no ato me nkra se wono no bebia ne connections wo wa ban mu hɔ no sani ya meni ni di agro no won pe o na me se me de asoma me se me ye adwuma and I did my audit me the report echo cabinet omo pa mo me ka nche me se me boa. And the rot, majority of the rot in the central region. Rot, katasisa project kankan.
It was school feeding.
It was school feeding.
And you heard the former gender minister speaking on a local dialect radio station. That's Sarah Adwoa Safo there. Now to the Ashanti region, and the Kumasi High Court has set aside NDC's application for substituted service after lawyers of the first respondents in a parliamentary election petition case filed a motion to that effect. The court's decision was based on grounds that due process was not followed in acquiring the service. The ruling the governing party is contesting the 2024 parliamentary result for Obuasi East, Ahafo Ano North and Ahafo Ano South West in the Ashanti region. Ibrahim Abubakar has been following this. He joins us live on the line. Ibrahim, what more can you tell us?
Well, Beatrice, what it means basically is that the lawyers for the petitioners will have to go back and serve the notice again to the lawyers of the defendants, so that they start all the process again. Currently, they file a motion for application of injunction on the 3 members of parliament in Ahafo Ano North, Ahafo Ano South West, and Obuasi East. But for that to be determined, they needed to go through the right process. In fact, the order of substituted service had to be set aside because they said, per the law, you have to go to the person 3 times and see if you cannot locate the person before you go ahead to throw that order and take it in places that you want. But this was a case that they went to their chamber twice, they couldn't meet them, and they went ahead to secure that order. That's how come it had to be set aside, because according to the judge, it didn't follow any due process. So they've all agreed that they will have to come back on March 4 to continue with the case. That's when they will have to refile again for motion of application for injunction.
Thank you so much, Ibrahim Abubakar. He's Ashanti region correspondent. Now join us on our Ghana Mom series journey as we delve into the traditions that enrich our nation's diverse communities. Today, we venture into Dadieso in the Swaman district of the Western North region, where an intriguing cultural taboo has long fascinated observers: the prohibition of goats and dogs in the community. Irama Smith has the rest of the story.
Dadieso, the district capital of the Swaman District Assembly,
a community renowned for its rich history and steadfast traditions. As we explore the area, a notable observation is that while livestock such as sheep and poultry are common, goats are conspicuously missing. So is man's very good friend, the dog. We learn that for generations, the rearing of these animals have been strictly prohibited here. Seeking to understand the roots of this taboo, we inquire from this group of youth gathered in front of this cocoa shed. Growing up, we were aware of certain taboos, but unfortunately, the implications and consequences were never fully explained to us.
Like me,
My mother also shared with me that rearing goats and dogs are prohibited in our area. I never bothered to ask because it's a long-standing tradition that we've grown up with. We're expected to respect and comply with it. The youth are generally at a loss, so we seek out Nana Kwesi Adu, the Apamhene and revered custodian of Siaman Dadieso's history. He reveals that the community's ancestors forged a sacred pact with the land and spirit, declaring goats and dogs forbidden to preserve peace and harmony. In the past, when chiefs had to fight to secure their lands, they would perform rituals to ensure the prosperity and growth of their communities. Our chief, Nana Dugujegu Brichum II, made the sacrifice of goats and dogs to protect our community. From that day onward, the rearing of these two animals has been prohibited in our area. Nana Kwesi Adu is emphatic that this ancestral decree is non-negotiable and so is strictly adhered to. Consequently, whenever community elders encounter goats, they order them to be slaughtered immediately. In some cases, the owner of the animal may also face fines as penalty. He also reveals that for strangers who flout the taboo, the elders initially issue a warning. This is then followed by some drastic rituals if the person continues to disobey. If a stranger unknowingly brings a goat into a community, we first approach them and politely ask them to remove it. However, if they refuse to comply and insist on challenging our tradition, we are left with no choice but to order the animal to be slaughtered. As modernity gradually makes its presence felt, Dadieso remains steadfast in its commitment to tradition. For the community, this centuries-old taboo is not a constraint, but a badge of honor, a vital link between their revered past and vibrant present.
Rama Smith filed that report from the Western region. That's it for the news here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice Adu. Coming up next is Business Daily with Bismarck Awusa. Log on to 3news.com for more news.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA warns against government's over-reliance on social interventions in 2025 budget. We'll bring you details. And Minerals Income and Investment Fund, MIF, moves to boost stakes in mineral exploration firms through intensified royalties collection. We'll hear from Acting Chief Executive Justina Nelson.
We want to intensify our royalty collections for not just Electrochem, but for all the other companies that we have stake and mineral companies that are in this country.
I am Bismarck Ausa. We'll bring you details of our headlines and other stories shortly. Thanks for your company. To our very first story, the Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA, is raising concerns over the heavy dependence on the 2025 budget on social intervention programs. While acknowledging the benefits of these policies, the Institute warns that prioritizing equity over productive investments could lead to slower economic growth in the long term. The following 3 Business News Desk report has more. The Institute argues that while expanding access to free education, healthcare and social support programs is commendable, it is equally crucial to invest in productive sectors that can generate long-term economic growth. The 2025 budget retains key social intervention policies, including free SHS, nursing and teacher trainee allowances, LEAP and NHIS. It also introduces new initiatives such as free first-year university fees, free primary healthcare and free sanitary pads for schoolgirls. The IEA cautions that while these programs promote equity, excessive focus on them without corresponding investment in economic productivity may lead to a smaller national income in the future. The Institute is therefore calling for a balance between welfare support and economic development policies. The IEA is therefore urging policymakers to strike a balance between welfare spending and economic development to ensure a more stable and prosperous future for the country. And that was a 3 Business News Desk report on the IEA warning against government's over-reliance on social interventions in the 2025 budget. Moving on, a partner and Africa leader for infrastructure and capital projects at Deloitte, Yao Apialate, has called on government to move away from its heavy reliance on traditional borrowing methods. Yao Late emphasized the need for innovative financing strategies to manage the nation's rising debt levels. His comments highlight growing concerns about Ghana's public debt and the necessity to strategic financial planning. Yao Late advocated for a shift towards exploring alternative financing options to ensure sustainable economic growth.
Diversify our borrowing sources. We have historically relied on Euro bonds, which are commercial facilities and relatively more expensive. We should focus on concessionary facilities that support development of infrastructure projects. You can go for a concessionary loan at about 3% or even less. In Southern Africa and most Southern African countries, they are getting a lot of facilities for what you call blended financing. Blended financing is a combination of public finance and philanthropic funds. There are philanthropic funds that are available to support green projects. So if we do not go for innovative financing sources, you will focus on the traditional either Euro bond, we are going to the domestic debt market, or we are doing the T-bills. Those traditional sources have not been helpful.
And that was a partner and Africa leader for infrastructure and capital projects at Deloitte, Ghana, Yao Apialate. The Minerals Income and Investment Fund, MIF, is ramping up efforts to increase its stakes in mineral exploration companies by enhancing the collection of royalties. The move is expected to boost government revenue from the mining sector and strengthen local participation in mineral development. Acting Chief Executive of MIF, Justina Nelson, addressed the media during her working visit to West Africa's largest salt production firm, Electrochem Ghana.
MIF has a stake in Electrochem. Electrochem is not the only equity organization that I'm paying a visit to. I'm intend to pay visits to all companies that we have equities in. And seeing this is a national project, they have been able to utilize the funds, but there is more discussions that we have undertaken behind closed doors for them to be able to be listed on the stock exchange, for them to be able to start generating dividends for the government. And we want to intensify our royalty collections for not just Electrochem, but for all the other companies that we have stake and mineral companies that are in this country. Those that have not received letters, we have written letters to start paying royalties to the government. And we'll be taking these field visits to identify all the companies, either in salt, either in minerals, except bauxite. We are mandated to take royalties for all the mineral generating companies in this country.
And that was Acting Chief Executive of Minerals Income and Investment Fund, MIF, Justina Nelson, ramping up efforts to increase its stake in mineral exploration companies by enhancing the collection of royalties. Meanwhile, Chief Executive of Electrochem Ghana, Abdul Razak Adam, said the estimated cost of the recent invasion of the salt mine by some residents cost the company about $20 million. Few weeks ago, tensions escalated when a group of residents, mostly artisanal salt miners, allegedly stormed the company's premises and vandalized properties.
It was pro-planned. Part of it, I would say, had to do with political connotation, where a section of the people want to describe the company as if when it was owned by government. Unfortunately, a section of the indigents so think that before then, when a new regime comes, they come and sack the old management and the new management comes. So some of our politicians, without mentioning names, decided to play politics with that to rally the people. So once there was a change in government, then immediately they decided to take advantage of that. The estimated cost of that invasion, I think it took us back over, I would estimate somewhere around 20 million, dollars. In terms of halting production for that period, in terms of equipment damage, in terms of salt theft, and in terms of security operations. So it actually set the company back, if I'm not mistaken, 1 year.
And that was Chief Executive of Electrochem Ghana, Abdul Razak Adam. The Ghana Revenue Authority is seeking the support of religious leaders to educate their congregations on the importance of tax compliance. Commissioner in charge of support services, Dr. Alex Adumako-Mensah, emphasizes that with the government facing challenges in attracting funds from the capital market, maximizing domestic revenue has become crucial. Dr. Adumako-Mensah draws a parallel between tax payment and the biblical practice of paying tithes, encouraging religious leaders to preach the value of contributing to the state's coffers. He made this call during a visit to the National Chief Imam, Sheikh Osmanus Nuru Sharubutu in Accra, where the GRA presented food items in support of this year's Ramadan celebrations.
Came to say happy Ramadan Day to him and also to draw the attention about the tax compliance, because without tax we cannot move forward. And what we have seen that it's difficult now to attract funds from the international world. So you have to back up ourselves and collect our domestic revenue to support the government expenditure. So purposely we are here to explain to everyone that it's the time that everyone have to give a little to support the government to make a proper development. But always you preach the gospel of God to them. That as you are preaching the gospel, you should preach this one alongside so that it sticks into themselves. Because the God is giving us to give a certain percentage to what we have done to him. So if we are giving a tithe, 10% tithe from our own result to the church so the church can move forward, why not do the same to the nation?
Consumer advocacy group CATS International is urging the government to fulfill its campaign promise to pass the Consumer Protection Bill. Ghana got its first consumer protection draft bill in 2006, but after nearly 2 decades, the bill is yet to be passed into law. Speaking at the launch of the State of Ghana Consumer Report, West African Regional Director Apia Kusi Adumako emphasized that enacting the bill is crucial to safeguarding consumers from exploitation and ensuring fair market practices.
Businesses in this country have also taken it that they are doing consumer service by selling goods and services to them. That is wrong. And I think that we need to have the consumer protection law. In fact, this bill has been on the drawing board for more than 25 years at the Ministry of Trade. But the good thing is that in the last year's elections, it was captured in the manifesto of the NDC that the government will prioritize the passage of the consumer protection law. We are reminding the Ministry of Trade, they are the key agents, that they have to do all the necessary work on the bill and get the bill to Parliament through Cabinet, because Ghanaian consumers have been taken for a ride. When you go and buy a product from the shop and the product doesn't work, the best they can ask you is that you can exchange with something else. Meanwhile, you don't need the something else.
You head West Africa. And you heard West African Regional Director of Consumer Advocacy Group CATS International, Apiakusi Adumakon, ending Business Daily with me, Bismarck Ausa. For more business stories, please check out our website, 3news.com. Thanks for your company. Urban Blend continues with Black Rasta Tuesday.